Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Trade Deadline Day, Establish Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher. We have 7 games on the slate that are getting impacted as we speak by trades around the league and also by injury stuff. We have a special Trade Deadline edition show at 3 o'clock Eastern time. After the show, there'll be a gap because we're not going to go full hour on the Injury Report show. But we'll break down all the trade analysis and all the long-term season-long DFS impacts, title contending odds, and all those different things, breaking down each of the trades that happened over the last few days individually on that show. This show today, we're going to focus entirely on the injury report and how the trades might shape rosters for just tonight. So if you're looking for our analysis of James Harden going to Philadelphia, for example, and how it impacts Brooklyn, or Ben Simmons going to Brooklyn, tune in at 3 o'clock Eastern. Because guess what? Literally nothing changes for Brooklyn tonight. They didn't trade anybody that was going to play tonight. Because James Harden wasn't going to play and Paul Millsap hasn't been playing. So we won't be talking about that stuff here. We'll be talking about that at 3 o'clock Eastern time. All right. With that said, let's get into the injuries, Gallagher. You wanted to lead with Nick Claxton questionable, right? Because it's big.
Yeah, that's why.
And you just want to poke and prod at the Brooklyn roster situation that we will talk in more detail later. But
yes, we'll be talking about this roster in about an hour. But yeah, sexy, very sexy.
So Clax,
I put some money down on some Brooklyn futures, by the way. But yeah, as we could say, Claxton, I don't think he's going to play. He's had this kind of hamstring thing lacking. Plus, I mean, there's also rumors of, Brian Windhorst mentioned that the reason why they got Andre Drummond is because they want to trade Nicholas Claxton, which makes all the sense in the world, right? Especially getting this pick. So they're certainly not done. So, I mean, there's really no reason to think Claxton's going to play. So, probably get a lot of Blake Griffin, probably a little Daylon Sharp, a little bit of James Johnson. Yeah. Obviously, Ben won't be available for that one. So yeah, a lot of minutes up for grabs. Back on the road, so Kyrie's back in the mix too.
That's the big one. And we've seen Brooklyn play of late without James Harden as he's been nursing this hamstring trade-itis that he's had. And so we've seen Brooklyn in these spots. With Kyrie around, it's a lot of Kyrie. The offense is very, very Kyrie-centric. So from a DFS perspective, he'll be the focus tonight. Their roster, though, isn't really depleted by this trade. Like I said, Harden wasn't going to play for them tonight anyway. They're acquiring pieces that aren't going to play for them tonight. And Paul Millsap was the other piece shipped out. He hasn't been playing, was basically going to get waived if he wasn't included in trade. So I don't think anything really changes too much for Brooklyn tonight. We'll move forward talking about other teams that have been impacted by trades tonight. So let's start with the Bucks, who shipped out Dante DiVincenzo in an effort to get back Serge Ibaka, and also in an effort to not pay Dante DiVincenzo, which we'll talk about more on the 3 o'clock Eastern show. So without Dante, it goes back to kind of early season Bucks, right? Like Pat Connaughton and Grayson Allen have more of a role and more of an opportunity here. Wes Matthews certainly got some fits and starts in terms of opportunities. How do you expect this to shake out in terms of who benefits, and will it make an impact on the DFS side of things?
Not huge. I mean, Grayson Allen being back, we'll see a little bit more Connaughton, a little bit more Wes Matthews, a little bit longer leash maybe for Grayson Allen. I forget who I don't even really know the slate too. They're playing the Suns too, so definitely going to be tough to kind of go, too guardy. So maybe they go a little bit bigger at times, but not a huge fall. We know Dante's minutes have been pretty much capped all year from the ankle surgery.
Yeah, they had been just kind of building them up into the mid-20s. So, you take mid-20 minutes away, you kind of distribute them around. And I think early in the season, we saw Pat Connaughton and Grayson Allen, when Dante DiVincenzo wasn't there, occasionally get into the low 30s. And I think we'll see things like that going forward as well. So there might be opportunities, especially where their prices have dipped, to be small buyers. But the matchup against the Suns is a tough one on a relatively full slate. Not a huge slate, but not a small slate either. Other trade situations to monitor tonight. Let's talk about the Pistons. We can talk about the Cade Cunningham questionable tag, along with some of the pieces they shipped out today in terms of Trey Lyles and Josh Jackson in their efforts to get Marvin Bagley, who of course won't be available to play tonight. Cade Cunningham's questionable tag. Do you expect that we will see him tonight?
Probably not, honestly. Like, I was pretty surprised he didn't play in the Mavs game, so I think he's got a pretty good chance to play. But if I had to pick one, I'd say no. Which, again, they just lost Trey Lyles and Josh Jackson. So this deep roster they've had is getting a little thinner here. So now Hamidou Diallo is going to have to play more of the 4. I don't know if Saddiq Bey is on. Is he on the injury report? I haven't really been too locked in here. He was actually coming off G League Player of the Week. No, he's not. Oh no, he is. Okay, he is on there. So yeah, he won't play. So then that would be McGruder.
Wait,
Would be.
you're
They
saying
may have to go 9.
Sadiq Bey, or are you talking about Saban?
I'm sorry. I meant Saban Lee if I said that wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, the starting 5 would basically be the same, but you'd be putting Hamilton DL at the 4. You'd definitely be playing Rodney McGruder, Frank Jackson, Kelly Olynyk. So they may just go 9, and then maybe they try one of their G League guys, whoever. So pretty relevant though.
Yeah, tough matchup against Memphis. So probably not, even though they're getting thinner, probably not a spot to really look to attack in DFS. But a thinner roster does provide some opportunities. I think one of the guys who might benefit the most here would be Kelly Olynyk. Simply because you're going against a Memphis team that likes to play a little bit bigger. You might see Detroit actually play Kelly Olynyk alongside Stewart at some points just to kind of like kill minutes, even though they're a little bit thinner at the center spot. And it could be, it could be just true backup. But I think there's a chance that Olynyk can get up to like 25 tonight, 25, 26. And he's been useful from a DFS perspective at times when he's able to get to that level and he's priced cheaply. So something to keep an eye on there, but the Pistons are a little bit thinner after trading some of that depth today. The Clippers traded out Serge Ibaka in that deal. They got Rodney Hood and Semi Ojeleye. Serge we had projected for just 6 minutes prior to the deal, so I don't think it moves the needle much here. Certainly frees up the upside a little bit more for Zubats and for Hartenstein, but as we've talked about with these Clippers moves of late, they've added so much wing depth in an effort to be able to play different styles as well. And certainly in the matchup tonight, you would see an opportunity to potentially play different styles and play some of those smaller lineups as well against Dallas, who doesn't, play kind of the prototypical true big center type rotations. So in terms of Ibaka being, out from the Clippers, do you think there's any big fallout there that, are you more interested in Zubats or anything there tonight?
No, that's a really bad matchup for Zubats. We've seen him get wrecked before in the pick and roll with Luka. So Tyler actually said today that they're looking to play more Robert Covington at the 5. We saw more of that in the last game, and this is like an obvious spot where they play a lot of Rocco at the 5. So don't know if Serge was going to even play. I think Rocco playing more at the 5 could open up some more minutes for some of the wings. So it's something to look at. Maybe we see more of that coffee stuff. We saw his minutes dip. But yeah, Rocco could be a little sneaky with maybe some increased minutes. We've seen his minutes kind of trend up a little bit, and obviously, Norm for blowouts and other stuff. His minutes haven't quite spiked yet. Maybe they come a little higher today.
The other thing I'd note about Rocco is just like we've seen there's room for usage to spike in these situations. Like he's played with a lot of really high usage superstars in the last few years, whether it's been Dame or Dame and CJ or Harden. The Clippers don't really have that right now without Paul George and Kawhi. So there's the room where Covington's been a really low usage guy. Maybe he can get up to like 14, 15, 16% in these types of situations. There's a possibility for something like that too. All right, Pels, they are a team that made their trade early. So we're going to see some of those guys tonight. We'll see CJ McCollum in action tonight. It doesn't sound like Larry Nance is going to play again this season, so I don't think we're going to see any Larry Nance anytime soon. But how do you expect the Pelicans to look with the addition of CJ McCollum going up against the Miami Heat tonight?
Yeah, I talked about this a lot in the content, and it's all about the defensive side and how you think. I mean, Miami can attack you so many different ways. So do you really want to put CJ McCollum and Devontae Graham out there for a lot of minutes, 2 really weak defenders? My answer would be no. And I think just because it's the first game, like they might start him and just see how it goes. But I have major concerns about Devontae Graham's upside with CJ McCollum and eating into him perhaps more than anyone else. I think Jackson Hayes has played too well not to really affect his minutes. We've seen Willie Green, whenever he likes a lineup that's been working, and it has pretty in an impactful way. Sure, the schedule's been a little soft, but yeah, I mean, there's no reason to think. Honestly, I don't think you can take Jackson Hayes out of the starting lineup. So I think CJ would just start in Graham's spot, and then he would come off the bench, be a 6-man, get kind of back to the old Charlotte role where he had more ball handling in the non-Ingram minutes with CJ, or maybe they bring CJ off the bench for the first game. We saw that happen with LeVert, even without Lauri Markkanen. So I think either of those things are on the table. But obviously, you're losing the Alvarado minutes, you're losing the Garrett Temple minutes, you're losing the Najee Harris minutes. Najee Marshall minutes too. I can't talk today for that football on the brain. But yeah, those guys would all go away. So it'd be pretty much mostly a 6-man with just like fringy guys on the outside.
Yeah, we saw not only Cleveland do that with LeVert, but the Clippers do that with Norm Powell as well. The immediate acquisition struck the guy off the bench. give him kind of the ball in his hands and just let him go instead of having to work in the flow of a new offense that they might not be as familiar with and different things like that. So we'll see. In terms of injury stuff, like straight injury stuff, no Fred VanVleet for Toronto tonight. Toronto did make a move to acquire Thaddeus Young, which we'll talk about more on the trade deadline show, but that won't impact anything for tonight. But the absence of VanVleet is a big one to fill, both in terms of role and in terms of minutes. So how do you expect the Raptors to try to fill it tonight?
Yeah, we've seen this happen before. We saw Gary Trent Jr. start at the point and play really good. He would obviously give up some of that ball handling to Scotty Barnes and Pascal Siakam. My God, Siakam's just been insane. And one of the best matchups you can ask for here against the Rockets. And Nick Nurse has said they want to try to pick matchups where they're having a size and strength advantage, and there's going to be so many of them here. I think they would put Jayshawn Tate on Siakam, and then Christian Wood would probably get Scotty Barnes. So OG would have a pretty size advantage, and then they would go big and start Precious, I would assume also. So actually, yeah, Precious would get Wood, and then that would be kind of the way they would play their team. So yeah, I think those guys could all take advantage. Good spot for Scotty Barnes, great spot for Siakam, great spot for Trent, and then the other guys won't really be too affected. We'll see a little bit more Banton, a little bit more Boucher, a little bit more, not a lot, and then Birch should probably get 13, 14.
Yeah, that's the thing, that with Birch back, they have some of this additional front court depth that it might not all funnel to Achua and Boucher as it did kind of earlier when Birch was out alongside those guys. Yeah.
And should add to that just quickly, Birch is more of a chemistry guy with VanVleet, according to Nick Nurse. So VanVleet being out, that's kind of why I'm thinking Achua.
Some other questionables to keep an eye on tonight. Caleb Martin for Miami. We talked about how Miami has been in this spot where their roster has just, gotten deeper through players getting opportunities and stepping up to the plate during the course of the season. And as a result, as they've gotten healthier, there might be kind of, pick your spots where a guy is more cautious on these questionable tags just because Miami feels like they have plenty of depth to be able to handle without him. So what are your expectations for Caleb Martin tonight? Do you think we see him for Miami?
Yeah, probably back. I just had kind of been on and off. I think it was more of a maintenance thing. We talked about the Spoelstra comments about, using the depth when they can. So I'd expect him to return. We'll see if that hero probably, or I'm sorry, to play through it. I'd expect him to be pretty much a full go. Let's see, Matt, against the Pelicans, yeah, they probably need him for the non-Jimmies and then maybe a couple other ones for CJ McCollum, and definitely some pretty good offensive players. So his minutes should be probably better than Max Strus and Vincent, assuming Hero's in. I don't expect him to be one of the lead guys off the bench, but not really fantasy relevant with most of the guys ready to go.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. I think Strus and Vincent are most vulnerable, but I think Duncan Robinson is also vulnerable with Tyler Hero back there as well, as Strus and Robinson kind of become one player at that point, and then it's a little bit hot-handy between the two of them in terms of we've seen wild minutes variance between those two players during the course of the season. But Tyler Hero should return tonight, and healthy Miami team going to have a lot to say at the end of the year in the Eastern Conference, despite all of the attention not being on them today. Other questionable tags on the injury report, Eric Gordon. And this one you got to combine with questionable plus, for health purposes, but also like, will he even be on this roster when game time rolls around? He's been one of the most rumored trade candidates in the league. I think a team like Phoenix would make a lot of sense for him to end up on, reuniting with Chris Paul. We'll see if that happens. We'll talk about it at 3:00 Eastern if it does in the next 45 minutes. But if Gordon makes it through the trade deadline, do you think he plays tonight?
No, I don't think so. I think they're going to be careful with him. I don't think he's ready to play yet based on some of the comments from Silas. Didn't seem like he was all that close. So would expect, against this big Raptors team, right? Like no brainer, you're starting Şengün and Wood together, assuming Wood stays. There's been some rumors on Christian Wood getting traded. We'll talk more about that if it happens in an hour or so. But Garrison Matthews has actually been really good as far as like, minutes and as far as I was expecting, and Josh Christopher's been a little bit down, but we'll see if that changes. They definitely believe in Josh Christopher, and I think once the deadline changes, maybe they want to trade Matthews. It could really open up some Josh Christopher minutes.
Yeah. Sterling Brown questionable for Dallas. Kristaps Porzingis remains out we have seen Dallas's rotation condense a little bit when they've been without both Sterling Brown and Maxi Kleber. They got Kleber back last game. And the minutes were still, pretty good. It was a blowout situation, but like if you look at kind of the first half minutes and into the third quarter, like DFS, Bullock still played a bunch. Kleber came off the bench, did not slide back into that starting lineup over Bullock, so went back to the bench, and he played fine. But the potential for Sterling Brown's return as well would thicken out the roster even more. I think Reggie Bullock's played so well that he's going to maintain his role, certainly. And I think Kleber is such a stalwart in the lineup. So if Sterling Brown was to return, I think, Frank Ntilikina is probably the first guy off the chopping block there. Him or Trey Burke, I think it would be a little bit matchup dependent, just if they need offense versus if they think they need defense. Because I think Josh Green's minutes look fairly secure. It looks like they're really trying to kind of bring him along in that 16 to 20 minute role a night. So that's where I think if Sterling Brown plays, I think that's where the minutes go. What do you think?
Yeah. Little bit of a disagreement just because role wise, Sterling Brown's more of a defensive guy, which they've kind of asked Josh Green to be.
Yeah.
So I think, they if they were going to put Brown in there, it would kind of be at his expense for how Kidd wants to use his chess pieces. And I think they like Ntilikina in the non-Brunson and Luka minutes next to Brunson for a little bit. So I think it would be kind of even. Obviously, I think Burke is like the number one guy, but I think it'll be a little bit closer between Green and Ntilikina being the guys after Burke.
There we have it. So we got through the injuries.
We got one. We got to hit RJ. He got ruled out.
Oh, RJ got ruled out.
Too.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So RJ, Knicks without RJ Barrett, almost double-digit underdogs against the Warriors tonight. The Warriors have not filed. They're on the second night of a back-to-back. So we
should return though.
Get that information around 4:30 Eastern time is my guess. On RJ Barrett, how do the Knicks, play without RJ tonight? What are your expectations there?
Well, yeah, we have possible trades coming, but we'll assume none. But a lot of Knicks rumors. But I think Alec Burks is kind of their Swiss Army knife for how they want to plug in. So I think it makes a ton of sense to put him in there. We know he's got ball handling chops, got some floor spacing. He's pretty good defensively. So I think he would just start, and then they would kind of shift basically Cam Reddish into his role a little bit. They do have, I believe, Quentin Grimes coming back, so that also helps. So
Grimes, Noel, and Mitch Robinson all listed as questionable.
Yeah. So. Yep. It's okay. I think I saw somebody who should be expected back. I haven't been too locked in on news this morning besides trade stuff. But yeah, if Grimes comes back, you're basically putting Grimes in the Burks role, Burks in the Barrett role, and then maybe a little bit longer leash for Fournier, maybe a little bit longer leash for Quickly with Burks. Again, we've seen minutes like we'll see if Kemba gets bought out or traded or whatever. We've seen Quickly kind of benefit from wings missing just because Burks is going to be used differently. He goes from being more of a 1 over 2 to more of a 2 over 3. So Quickly kind of a sneaky beneficiary from this.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. This also frees up minutes for Cam Reddish to play, right? Which has been a big topic of conversation amongst Knicks fans, certainly since the trade. And yeah, that's another thing that we'll have to look out for. Some other trade situations, I guess, that we can cover really quickly. Boston did trade Josh Richardson. So he was a key member of the rotation. They picked up Derek White in that trade situation. Is Boston on the slate tonight?
They're not.
They are not. Okay. So we can talk about them on the trade show. And then San Antonio, I think
we got the Jalen Smith out for the Suns. Huge impact.
Oh yeah. Jalen Smith moved out for the Suns. They traded him for Torrey Craig to bring back Torrey Craig, who they didn't re-up after their finals run.
Man, what a bad pick, Jalen Smith, huh? God.
Yeah, Jalen Smith reunited with Tyrese Halliburton now in what could have been the what could have been file. So no Jalen Smith for Phoenix, just kind of shovels all. He wasn't playing backup center minutes; he was actually playing 4 minutes a little bit. So it should just shovel more playing time to Cam Johnson and Jay Crowder, which makes sense against the Bucks anyway, in kind of a smaller spot.
They've been using him a little bit, kind of surprisingly, at the 4. So it's just, again, just getting ahead of ourselves here, but interesting trade. I think that Torrey Craig pickup this kind of ties into tonight too. Like Monty wants to play small, man. They've really seen that in certain matchups against the Bucks today. I think they've got enough size with Jay Crowder guarding Giannis and all that stuff. We might see a little bit more of that in the non-8 and stuff, where like JaVale's pretty good, but I could see him being a little bit vulnerable at times against with the way the Bucks are going to attack them. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of. We've seen Jay, with Miami. They didn't even put Bam on him. If you remember in that series, they put Jay on him. So definitely kind of something to watch in this matchup tonight.
All right, that'll do it for the injury report analysis show. upcoming 3 o'clock Eastern time, Mike and I will be on to talk trades, which has actually caught most of our attention all day long as we've been kind of shifting rosters around, trying to move depth charts around. All the depth charts pages have been updated as trades have been going. So we have been keeping those live and up to date. Those are a free resource on establishedrun.com. You just go into the NBA drop down and click on depth charts. That is not behind the paywall. So if you're looking to figure out depth charts and you're not subscribed to Established Run, you can still get that for free. You can also get all of our content here on the YouTube channel for free. Just hit that subscribe button. And please consider pressing or smashing the like button to continue to help circulate this free content. We will be back in about 40 minutes to talk all of the trade roundup and all the different trades that happened this week, their impacts on DFS, on season-long fantasy, and on title odds. Both Mike Gallagher and I will have plenty of takes around the trade. So join us here in 40 minutes. Same location, same 2 guys, just breaking down different stuff. We'll see you soon.